My name is Zizipho Nyanga, born Mkwala. I was born in Mthatha. I'm a sixth child, and I'm quite passionate about entrepreneurship and rural development and women empowerment. Okay, Masisizane Fund is an initiative of Old Mutual. It started in 2007. After consulting with government and various stakeholders, we decided as Old Mutual to do something good in the communities we do business in. So the decision was to use the money from the unclaimed shares trust to develop SMMEs and entrepreneurship in peri-urban and rural areas. So we fund businesses in those areas with the aim of creating jobs and bringing back economic activity in the areas that commercial banks don't normally play in. We fund businesses in agriculture, in franchising, supply chain and manufacturing, and we aim to take small businesses into fully commercial businesses that can then create jobs. It is quite important. I'm sure, as you know, the Googles of this world and other big corporates didn't start as big as they are. Everyone must have started from a small business and they grew up to be the big corporates they are today. So it is important because it also contributes to the GDP of the country. It also contributes to the job creation. It also makes sure that when government and private sector can't create jobs, the entrepreneurs on the ground are able to put food on the table by creating jobs for themselves and jobs for other people. It is also important for us to ensure that at school, grassroots level, we teach our kids entrepreneurship, the importance of doing business from a young age, so that they don't think when one goes into business, it's a taboo. They always have to go to the professions that are well known. So as a contribution, Old Mutual Foundation also focuses on teaching entrepreneurship to young kids, and Masisizane Fund then ensures that we incubate those small businesses and support them with funding and business support to make sure that they grow into bigger companies that can in turn offer the jobs and contribution to the GDP of the country. Let me start with the successes. We bring hope to the entrepreneurs in rural areas and peri-urban areas. I said earlier that those are the areas where commercial banks don't normally play. So entrepreneurs usually come to us at the last moment, at the 11th hour, when they've knocked at various doors and they couldn't find funding. So we bring hope to the people that either have found themselves forced to be entrepreneurs, or they've taken a decision to jump the corporate ship and make sure that they do their own business. So the successes that we have is seeing an entrepreneur that came to us from a position of a small scale farmer and developing into a commercial farmer. We see successes in the people that come to us being tenderpreneurs with a contract, and we help them scale up and become fully fledged manufacturers. We see the success in some entrepreneurs acquiring existing business and turning them into much bigger businesses than they found them. We see the success in the small-scale farmers in the rural areas where they had no hope of ever graduating from subsistence farming into commercial farming, where we organize access to markets with big customers, and where we make sure that we develop the value chain and graduate them from primary agriculture into agro-processing, where real money is made. Then on the challenges side, we face a lot of challenges in the space we play in. It's a development funding space. We find entrepreneurs that are not necessarily ready to run businesses. There's a lot of challenges around technical skills, business skills. In the farming space, there's a lot of black farmers that are old, that are used to subsistence farming. They want to now do commercial farming. The challenge around aged farmers is that they want to do farming, but they're not necessarily able to do so because of age. we also see a lot of challenges around the scale of the businesses that we fund. So we have to walk the journey with those businesses, ensuring that they've got all the key ingredients for them to be successful. So the challenges then force us to not only provide funding, but also business support in the form of mentorship, in the form of technical skills, access to markets. We know barriers to entry, two of the biggest are access to funding and access to markets. So part of the work that we do at Masisizane ensures that if we see that the entrepreneur gives their all and they've got skin in the game, we then partner with them and give them what they need to succeed. That's a lot to speak about. I'll start with franchising. In the franchising space, it is easy for the entrepreneurs that we fund to get into that space. Even though most of them would normally cash out their pension from corporate and want to get into the space because of the requirement of unencumbered cash. So in the franchise space, we see a lot of women getting in there. We see a lot of entrepreneurs able to acquire franchises from 500,000 and above. The franchises that are quite successful in our space are in the fuel station space, also in the retail space in the form of spas, pick and pays, and also in the food and restaurant space where people get franchises in the restaurants space like Debonairs and others. So it's quite a successful space and easy to get into because in there you are told what to do. There's a franchise agreement and manual that you follow. It is a proven fact that franchises normally succeed because you know what to do. The franchisor support is quite important as well. So the link between ourselves and the entrepreneur and the franchisor is important, so that if the franchisor is not coming to the party to support our client, we're able to engage with them and make sure that, for instance, in the franchise space that are sitting in malls, if there's a construction, automatically the revenues of that particular franchise get affected. They can't pay rent, their royalties are low. So we have to support the entrepreneur in making sure that we talk to their landlord, we talk to their franchisors to see how we can help in that situation. And then in the supply chain and manufacturing space, I'll start with contract finance, where someone has a purchase order, but they don't have the money to fulfill that purchase order. So in that space, we find entrepreneurs that have these contracts or purchase orders, they almost miss the opportunity because they can't fulfill it because of cash constraints. So in our space, we then scale up some of the entrepreneurs depending on whether we see commitment and skin in the game of that entrepreneur. One particular example is a co-op that came to us with about 500 or 800,000 purchase order, and to date they've walked the journey with us and they have a revenue of over 45 million. That is an example of how then we identify certain traits in that business and the entrepreneur themselves that we can then walk the journey with them. And then in the manufacturing space, it is quite a difficult space to get into for our clients. We've funded a lot of acquisitions in that space, some of them successful, some of them not so successful. So because someone has found a business that's already existing, you never know exactly whether they're going to build that business further or they're going to run it down the drain. So in that space, there's a lot of issues around overheads. There's a lot of issues around quality control and making sure that the production processes are correct. And we have to offer a lot of support in that space through our technical support and mentors. And then lastly, in the agriculture space, we, as I said earlier, we find ourselves in the space where the black farmers that come to us were subsistence farmers, and now they want to move into the commercial space. So there's a lot of challenges there to say, if you're planting maize, are you aware of what the best price is to sell that maize? Do you have the storage facilities to store the maize such that you sell it at a time where suffix prices are better? Or are you forced to sell the maize just because you have no relationships with the markets? Also, there's a lot of costs around transport. You find that a farmer has gotten better yields, but they're losing money along the value chain to transport the maize from a rural area to where the markets are. It costs a lot of money. So there's a lot of work that's required from the likes of Masisizane and partners to see how we can develop a value chain and something that will support all the farmers from government, from private sector, where we can say, if we've supported farmers in this area, do we build a silo to make sure that they store the maize and sell it at the right price? Do we build a mill to make sure that they process that maize and then put it on the shelves of the retail stores that are in the area so that they then buy the maize meal or the samp that was produced by them, instead of always importing those products from other provinces? You know, when this climate change topic came, we always thought really it doesn't affect us. But you will see in the last few years, South Africa has had weather patterns that are not predictable. So in the agri-space, we've been hit hard around the 2015-2016 season, where there was drought across the country. Recently, you've seen the water crisis in the Western Cape, where we never thought we would be told not to flush the toilet, not to take 20-minute showers. And when we are required to recycle or look after the environment we live in, we never thought that days like this would come, where we have to save water, we have to think twice before we do certain things. So climate change and food security are related. If we don't do something about this negative climate change, then it threatens the food security in the whole world. Because take, for instance, the farmers that we've funded, some of them were hit hard by frost, some of them were hit hard by the rain. Too much rain is bad for agriculture. Drought is bad for agriculture. So we sort of need a climate that is quite conducive to what we're trying to do. So I see it as a challenge, because it's no longer an issue for countries like America. It's an issue for South Africa and the whole world. And we need to make sure that we play our part as individuals at home and at work to make sure that we contribute meaningfully in looking after our environment. So the manufacturing sector and in general the productive sectors, which is one of the sectors that we focus on at Masisizane, is very important for job creation. It's very important for economic activity in the country. So we need to really encourage entrepreneurs to produce or to create something rather than just trading, taking one product from this point to the next. So I think incubation is quite important in that sector. We need to identify innovative entrepreneurs that can come to incubation centers and be nurtured for a period of time, such that they develop their products, they are supported through business support and finance and all the other points, such as making sure that there's markets for those products. So incubation, I think, is the best way to support manufacturing space. And I think if you take, for example, in the textile industry, the likes of Fentech, they support small businesses that are manufacturing furniture, and the government offers those facilities to make sure that there's top of the range machinery that those entrepreneurs use to produce their products. They stay there for a period of time until they are ready to go rent their own property or buy their own property and hire their own employees. That can be done in the textile industry to revive that sector. It can be done in any other sector. For instance, the black umbrellas run by Shanduka incubates various sectors. So I think as a country, if Masisizane Fund and development finance institutions can partner with the likes of CEDARs and other incubation centers, we could really create a country that produces rather than just consumes and trade products that are finished. So when we started from a philanthropic approach, and we were just giving entrepreneurs money, and along the line we realized that we needed to ensure that there's a balance between financial sustainability of Masisizane and the development impact that we're trying to achieve. So the support that we offer, we give funding to entrepreneurs, but we follow the money through the post-investment support by making sure that we identify red flags that are threatening the success of the business, are threatening the repayment of the loan back to Masisizane. So the post-investment and business support includes interventions such as training, such as mentorship, and access to markets. When we've identified an entrepreneur that can be scaled up, we walk the journey with them and identify what the requirements are. And we also talk to our strategic partners to make sure that if there's a government institution that can offer grants instead of loans, we partner with them to offer that so that we can scale up the entrepreneurs that we've identified. So the post-investment and business support is quite important, because if you don't follow the money that you've given to the entrepreneurs, it's highly likely that in the space that we play in, it's not going to come back. We need entrepreneurs to pay back the money that is given to them by Masisizane Fund and other development finance institutions so that we can give it to other entrepreneurs. The work that we do is quite big in magnitude. So we need to make sure that we are sustainable as a fund so that we continue helping other entrepreneurs that are still to come. Message of support. The world of entrepreneurship is such a lonely one. To be an entrepreneur, you need to really have guts, and you need to have perseverance and resilience. The word Masisizane means let's help each other. So I would encourage the entrepreneurs in the SMME space to work with each other, network more, identify stakeholders and other SMMEs in the space they operate in, so that they have someone they can call in times of need. When you feel stuck and you don't know what the answer to your problem is, have a network of individuals or a panel of advisors that you can call and say, I'm facing this problem, what must I do? I think that the entrepreneurs fall into the trap of thinking that they will be jack of all trades, one-man syndrome type of thing. So we need to make sure that even though as entrepreneurs you're running a small business, treat it like a corporate and have a panel of advisors that you can call for technical advice, for business advice. You need a friend that is a lawyer, a friend that is a CA, a friend that is a website developer or whatever, a friend that is in the journalism space or brand space that you can call and say, I want to increase my brand, I want to take my brand out there, how do I do A, B, and C? Instead of thinking that as an entrepreneur you can do it all.